everyone. We're back again, another week with the Paranormal Pals, and we have Natasha back. Yay!
Yay!
Missed you, didn't we, Barbs? Missed
We
heaps.
sure very
So,
jealous.
Just a little bit.
this week, what's that?
You missed me a little bit.
No, we missed you a lot of it. So this week we're going to talk about what you do before you start the investigation. We're going to walk you through, as Barb said last week, we're going to walk you through all the steps. What you do before you get there, what you do while you're there, what you do before you start the investigation, what you do as you're setting up, and what you do afterwards. But before that, I'm going to chuck you across to the Daily Paranormal News and our reporter, Natasha Christopherson-Tuck.
Are we ready? Okay. I'm ready to go. So today's a bit of old news, but good news. There is supposedly a Bigfoot in New Zealand known as the Mohel Man, and the man trying to look for the Mohel Man is named Mark Koppel, and supposedly the Mohel Man will throw rocks at people, kidnap women, and try to scare people away from his mountain, which is the Mohel Ranges. And Mark Koppel will possibly talk about more of this on our live on the 23rd of May. So we're looking forward to that. And that is our paranormal news for this week.
Woohoo!
Here we go.
Yeah, looking forward to that live. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
But it'll be really great to have a New Zealand cryptid individual on our screens having a chat to us about what he's been up to. Yep. But this week, what are we talking about?
Well, we're doing like Paranormal Investigation 101, and it's like part 3. It's we're going to walk you through an investigation from the very start when you're trying to find an investigation, to what you do when you get there, to what you do when you're finished, and even a little bit about what you do when you get home.
So I think probably the first thing is about how you try and approach getting into places. And we don't want to make this long-winded, but I think discretion is the better part of valor, as they say.
Also, meeting them in their places as well. So
what's
go
that?
And have your beer, meet them in their places. Go have a beer at your local old pub and see if they've had any weird experiences. And most of the pubs you can stay over, and if you ask nicely and you pay the money, they might let you in to do an investigation.
Speak nicely, and don't go in like, "Oh, have you got any ghosts?" Or I want to do a paranormal investigation here. That is not the way to deal with it at all.
But the main thing is that you do ask. Please don't just sneak in, or even worse, break in and do an investigation. You will give all ghost hunters and paranormal investigators a bad name. It makes our job even harder when we're trying to get an investigation. You need to go in, speak to the people, ask about the stories. I mean, a lot of people are really happy to talk about any ghost stories they know about the place, and get a bit of a rapport up with the manager or the owner, and then just ask, and you'll be surprised just how many people will say yes. But yeah, if you don't ask, you'll never actually get permission.
And also don't go to a place and don't tell them that you're doing an investigation. Always ask permission first. Just don't show up and sit in a room and pretend like you're investigating. Actually get permission from the owners to do it, because some establishments don't want that sort of publicity, and that's fine. But it basically just respect the owner's wishes.
Absolutely,
Then,
because some owners may say, yeah, that's okay, but I don't want you to put anything online about it. Now, when that happens, it is a bit of a nuisance. You can always just say, oh, is it okay if we say we did the investigation, but it was undisclosed and we won't say the name of your establishment? And a lot of owners or managers are fine with that. But if they ask you not to name the location, please don't. It's just a matter of respect to the owner and other investigators, because you spoil it for everyone if you do.
and I think we've
Yeah.
spoken about this very briefly before, or we've mentioned it very briefly before. And we have had groups in New Zealand that have been allowed access to certain places and have been asked not to advertise the fact. And the first thing they've done, because the egos are more in control of them than the actual doing the research side of things, they've put it up on their websites that they've been into this particular place. They may not have shown photos from the outside, but they've named it, and that's enough. You know, when people say don't, just freaking walk.
Yeah. And another thing to note is also there are lots of people that want to share your stories, but there's a lot of people that are reluctant to, so you also respect them as well. So if they don't want to talk to you about it or they don't want you to publish what they say, don't make
Then
it public.
don't. Absolutely, then don't. So if you've gotten in and you've gotten
Can
through
I,
that first, sorry, Barbara, have you got, yeah?
sorry, just I was going to add, and Tracy, you might have been about to say this when I think about it. It really helps if you can show the owner that you have done some research on their property, that you've actually done some work before you've actually gone to see them.
On there.
If you can tell them something about the history of the building that they may not even know, you get brownie points. You definitely
Oh.
get brownie points for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not talking, let's make the distinction here. We are not talking about ghost hunting. We are talking about paranormally investigating a property for potential paranormal activity.
Yeah.
I hate that word paranormal activity after that movie. I hate that phrase, but that's effectively what it is, right?
And also don't be cheap. Pay the full
Go-
price. Don't sit outside and take photos outside the property line and pretend like you investigated. Go and
Yeah.
pay the money, be a patron, support your local businesses. Don't be cheap. Don't be a cheap.
Look, you did right, Tash, because I know of groups in New Zealand that are currently active that have said, we have done investigations here, and all they've got is one or two, a couple of hours when it's open to the public or an hour after it's shut. And I've had that on authority from the people who own the location. And yet the group is out there saying that they've done a full-blown investigation. You know what? You haven't.
There's nothing wrong with it if that's all you can get. If you can only get 2 or 3 hours,
There
great.
isn't. But then don't call don't call it an investigation. Call it an observation of the place, because you haven't been able to execute an investigation
There's
whatsoever.
definitely a difference.
I think that a mention needs to be made about what you do prior to going and investigating a place. As Barbara's already stated, you do a lot of research. You do a lot of research on the history of the place. You look into if there's been any previous claims with regards to paranormal. I hate paranormal occurrences.
Paranormal activity.
Change it up. I'm
Just
going to
say it.
change it up. Paranormal occurrences.
Paranormal anomalies.
Yeah. Paranormal anomalies. I love that word, anomalies. You go and you do that first and foremost. You go and you talk to the people who own the property. You see what they've got to say. They say, yes, you can come in. Great. What's next?
Charge all your equipment. They may not have.
You do all the interviews that you can get your hands on with regards to the
Yeah,
people that
true.
are there. You
Yeah,
you actually sit down with the people who work within the vicinity or live, not vicinity, work within the building or live within the building, and you sit down and you audio record their experiences that they have had, where, how, what, whatever that's been. Okay. The big thing that we actually do at Quantum is that we don't let any of our other team members know that when we're
yeah, that's
going in and we're
yeah.
seriously investigating a property.
Mm,
The only people that know about what the paranormal occurrences are, where they occur, who has received them, and how often they are supposedly meant to occur are the case manager. And then the lead investigator will be given certain information with regards to that. Not all of it, but certain information with regards to that. There's a big reason behind this. And the reason being is that the people in the team don't get primed. So they don't get primed so that, oh my God. So there's a person that's experienced, I don't know,
An
a
apparition
woman in a
walking down
white
the stairs.
dress, yeah, in the
Walking down the
lounge.
stairs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
go to the lounge, or as Tash says, walking down the stairs, and I go, oh my God, I saw a white woman. Well, do you know what? That means nothing. If you're actually investigating, a
Yeah.
personal experience is nothing. A personal experience, when they've had no prior knowledge of what has previously been experienced, actually has a lot more weight attached to it. And it does so particularly if there's a second person in tow with that first person. And that's a reason, and I've said this previously, that Quantum do not allow their investigators to go anywhere on their own. It's always two up. Or two up is two people together at any one time. If I want to go to the toilet, Barbara, come with me. If I want to go downstairs, Tash, come with me. There's never
Basically, do not work alone policy.
absolutely. It's a safety issue. Not only is it a safety issue, but it's a corroboration issue. So if you're going to have a personal experience and you say to me, I saw a woman in a white dress, and you're with Tash, and Tash goes, yeah, I didn't, then I can't put any weight in that whatsoever. However, if I've got two investigators that go together somewhere and both of them say, we saw a woman in a white dress, no shirt, I saw it, she saw it, and she goes, yeah, I saw it, then I'm going to go, okay, well, that's really interesting because they didn't know in this area that a woman in a white dress is seen, and yet I've got two people together that have seen the same thing. So I've got two different people, two different corroborations of an existing anomaly. Fantastic. Not
Yeah.
evidence, but
No.
fantastic.
I like to go into places and not know much about them. Like, I don't research a whole bunch of history about it, and I don't talk to anyone and get a preconceived sort of notion that something happened in this room and blah 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 blah. Like, obviously, like if you go to like places like the Conjuring House, or if you go to Lizzie Borden's place, they're very public on what happened there, so you kind of biased anyway. But in New Zealand, a lot of our history is not very well tracked.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. And the funny thing is that I don't actually like to know that information, but I'm always the one that digs it up, and I'm always the one that's got it in the file. And as I say, I tell the case manager, so as the case manager, I tell the lead investigator a certain amount of information, which she does not repeat to the rest of the team, I might add, but I don't tell her everything. So if there's stuff that comes up later on that I know she hasn't told the team and she doesn't know herself, then I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Again, it's not evidence, but it's interesting.
And just something I'd like to point out here, because a lot of you won't be in teams as large as what quantum is. So in a large team, you probably won't have a lead investigator. It'll be, maybe 2, 3, 4 of you investigating together. But it really does help the whole investigation if at least one of you has some sort of information and has done some research on the location. Just even from a historic point of view, if someone says, oh, I got the impression that I just saw someone going up on a slar, it's like, actually apparently there was a second floor once, but that's now gone. And you can then know to kind of perhaps focus that your investigation around that area, to look more closely at that area if one of your team members has reported that there is something that they've noted. So even if it's not a large team, it's really important to have someone with at least basic research skills and someone with a basic knowledge of what has happened and some of the basic history of the location.
Yeah, sometimes the locations are very interesting because the buildings or whatnot have been moved onto that site. So they were originally built there. So you don't know if the energy is coming from the house or the land per se. So it does pay to do a little bit of research to see, okay, this hotel was built in Waihi in the 1800s and then it was moved to, say, Rotorua, like Princess Street.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was moved on to a property that was something else prior to that.
Yeah.
So,
but the point is, you don't need to tell your whole team, whether you're 2 people or 4 people or 12 people. You don't need to tell your whole team. Keep that information between 1 or 2 of you, because keeping that information between 1 or 2 of you will make any experiences that anybody else has a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Weighty, if you like.
Yeah, a lot more credible.
What's that? A lot more credible. Again,
you can corroborate.
Corroboration, absolutely, Tash. But again, it's not evidence. Don't confuse corroboration with evidence. The two are so far apart. And I'm going to come back to that word again. I don't think evidence should be used as much as it is in the paranormal, because we don't get evidence. We get corroboration and we get anomalies, but that's not evidence of the paranormal. So just be aware that whatever you find out about the place, the more you keep it between a very select few, the more you can actually ascertain whether or not there might be something to what you have dug up. So when you get there, let's get to that point. So we've done the before, and we've done doing the research. And
Tasha said there's the you've got to have a look at your equipment. You've got to format it all. Make sure it's all formatted. Make sure that everything's charged.
Charge it all.
Yeah, and that you have batteries.
Power packs. Bring all the things you think you don't need, because if you don't bring it, you probably need it.
You'll need it, but
don't. We've got to remember that the people that we're talking to may never have been on an investigation before. So if you think that you need 2 AAs, you don't. You need 24 of them. If you think you need 2 AAAs, you don't. You need 24 of them. Okay. So you need to make sure you've got a stash of batteries. And those stash of batteries are not in the car. They're actually with you. So that's why I said, I think in a previous episode that we did, make sure you wear something with pockets so you can stuff some spare batteries into your pockets. Or if you're like me,
really good. A fishing jacket is great.
I know, but you look like a freaking psycho when you wear one of those.
I don't care.
She did pull it off a bit.
Carry everything.
Oh
But
my goodness.
I bring a backpack. It's like a magic backpack. It's
A
for
magic
like
backpack.
photography. And you
Dora's
can just pull out
backpack.
everything. Yeah, you can just pull out everything from the backpack.
I've got a Dora backpack. I'm going to start bringing that on investigations.
Oh my
That's what
God.
she calls her, Dora
will
the Explorer, and her magic backpack.
backpack.
Yep, backpack. So you need batteries. My God, do you need batteries? I think
Absolutely.
I've actually got in my case, I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tins of batteries. So I've got double A's, I've got triple A's, I've got 9 volts, and I've got 2 different, and they're all labeled because I'm obsessive.
They are.
And
Yeah.
I've got, Barbara, you've seen them, they're all labeled.
Yep,
And then
they
I've
are.
got a couple that say used batteries. And just because they go dead doesn't mean that they are dead. So when I get home, I then test them on my battery tester, which is now dead, and I've got to get a new one. And
Mhm.
half the time I've been out on investigations and it says, I see people go, oh, these batteries are dead, and they toss them. I have actually come to the conclusion that's a really bad idea, and you can save yourself a shit ton of money if you actually just put them in a used battery container that's labeled used batteries so you don't get it mixed up, and then take them home and get a battery tester. Guess what? They're only $12. Test them because
Mm.
you'll find 9 times out of 10 those batteries aren't dead at all.
Yeah.
Because there is, during investigations, folks, it's not uncommon for your batteries to drain. And, you'll have perhaps, 2 or 3 pieces of equipment with you, and 2 of them will completely drain. They were full. They were completely new batteries at the start of the investigation. They've drained. And the person you're investigating with, 3 of theirs have just suddenly drained. It's not uncommon. And that's why, even though you think, no, this recorder goes for 12 hours, I'm not going to have any problems with it, you can. It's a completely different animal. With
Absolutely.
paranormal investigating. Always have more batteries than you think you're going to need, because it's not uncommon. It doesn't happen every time, but it's not uncommon to get battery drain. The thought on that, and it's only a theory and a thought, but some people believe that in order for a spirit or a ghost to manifest, they need energy, and that they will take it from your batteries. Honestly, that's an untested. I mean, I'm sure we have tried it in the past and said, hey, if you want to take my energy to, drain my batteries, go for it, show me yourself. But no, that has never worked. But it's a fact. The battery drain is a fact, and you need to be ready for it.
You do.
We've had that happen. We had 2 different pieces of equipment in the room, and the third one near the door, and the one near the door was fine, but the 2 other were malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And they've never malfunctioned before. It was very weird.
Yeah.
The
they
thing
took it
is
out
with
of the
battery
room.
drain, you've got to also make sure that, particularly when it's cold weather, believe it or not, your batteries will malfunction. Whether you're inside or whether you're outside, they will. And that's why I'm saying, don't necessarily think because your batteries have drained and they're at 0% that you chuck them away. Please don't, because you can save yourself a fortune in batteries by buying a $15 battery tester, taking the ones that are so-called drained back home and testing them out, and I guarantee you they'll say damn near full charge. And you were going to toss those while you were there, so don't do that. Don't do that.
Higher temperatures do that as well. Batteries
Yep.
have a very set range of where they operate efficiently.
Low
very
and
cold
high
temperatures.
temperatures.
Yeah,
Yep,
like below
absolutely.
probably about 5 degrees is probably not great. And anything above about 35 is not great. And it's also not great for your equipment either.
No, it's not.
If
You're
it's getting
right
that
there.
hot.
Hmm.
So we've done the pre.
Yes.
So the other thing we've spoken about doing loads of interviews with people the owners of the property, people who have supposedly experienced things at the property. So we're there. We've done all our research. We've got our file this thick now. We've had all our interviews, audio, we've transcribed them. We've got a file like that. So we're heading there for the investigation. Natasha, what do we do when we get there?
The first thing I would do is try and get there during the day and take as many photos, footage, and audio that you can. So
Why?
you get a baseline for the noises and the sounds in the
Yeah.
area. Whether it's rural or whether it's in the middle of the city, you kind of need a baseline so that you can rule out any paranormal anomalies straight
I
off the
love
bat.
you.
I knew you were going to say that, Tracy.
You know me too well, Bob. I love you, Dash. Absolutely. So you can roll out paranormal anomalies. The point that Tash is trying to make is that, do you know what? There might be things that you have no idea about at this place. So what we would do is we would first off photograph the outside of the house and take audio recordings of, if we didn't already know the property, of what the sounds that we're getting outside there. The other thing that we would do with regards to the audio recordings of the outside is we would take these frequently throughout the night. It won't just be once. It'll be when we get there during the daylight. It'll be 2 hours later. It'll be 3 hours later, because they change as the night goes on. Like, we might turn up at 4 o'clock and it's rush hour, and that might last to 6 o'clock. And then after 6 o'clock, there's nothing until 9 o'clock, and then the trucks start. So we would be doing this on an hourly basis. We would also go in and we would take photos of the interior of the property. And the reason why we're going to take photos of that is so that if we get anything on video or camera, we can look back at those photos in the daylight with the lights on and say, no, that's going to be the shadow of that tall speaker there. Because the moon was coming through the window because the curtain wasn't shut, or the curtains were very flimsy and weren't blocking the moonlight, and that's going to hit on that. You're getting my point. Okay, so that's why we'd go in and we'd blanket the whole area with photos within the daylight, not with turning lights on, but in the daylight. We'd also test doors to see if they shut properly and securely. We would test windows to ensure they don't rattle, particularly in historical homes. What else would we do? Anybody
There's
else?
Yeah, it is. It's 100% important to fully document the building inside and outside with still photos and video. Something else that you should be looking for at this stage, particularly while it's still light, is any safety issues. Is the floor
Absolutely.
in any area going to go through? Is the floor actually moving? It's not uncommon. Is the floor actually moving as you walk on it? Is there carpet that is loose in places and that's, at the top of the stairs maybe? And if you're not aware of it, you're likely to go head first down the stairs. So it's really important at that point, while it's still daylight, to just do your health and safety work as well. At this point, you've done your photos, you've taken your videos, and you've had a good look around. If you have an EMF meter, you're just going to go through and sweep that whole building for EMF to get your baseline readings for that as well. Also, at the same time, one of you can be doing temperature baseline readings as well. Now, these readings do, as with the other audio recordings, do need to be done regularly throughout the whole investigation.
Not just at the beginning and not just at the end. Please make that. Yeah, it needs to be done at least on an hourly basis.
Exactly, because someone might have turned, it might be in a working environment, and perhaps you're doing a back room and someone has turned a light on, especially with old wiring. That can be like lots and lots of EMF, emit lots of EMF. So you just need to be checking the whole time, EMF and temperatures as well. So
not only that, Barb, but I've had so many times, and Tash, I bet you've heard of this, that you get 5 people pile into a room and shut a door, and they've taken a baseline reading 2 hours before that says it's, let's just say, 26 degrees. And 5 of them are in a very small room, and they go, oh my God, it's getting really hot in here. Can someone take a temperature reading? And someone takes a temperature reading and goes, oh my God, it's gone up to 39. Well, there's 5 of you in a room and you've shut the door. Your body heat is actually rising the room temperature. So you need to... What's that, darling?
We tend to get the opposite, because we usually start the investigation officially after the sun goes down, so the temperatures are dropping.
Oh, that's true.
They're going off, and it's like, well, that's because it's nighttime and the temperature is dropping. And then, what's that pinging noise? Oh, it's the house or the old building contracting or expanding, and the heat or the lack of heat.
Actually, it depends on what months you're talking about. We've noticed, because between certain months and between about 9 o'clock at night and 12 o'clock at night, in New Zealand particularly, if 5 of us go into a room and shut the door, that temperature will rise. There's no two ways about it. All our body heat within that room is making the baseline temperature rise. Or should I say,
on how big the room is.
Rise.
It depends on the room and what it's constructed. If you're in a stone building, it'll maintain its temperature pretty well. But if you're in like a wooden house, then
your body heat heats up a room when the doors and the windows are shut and there's a bunch of people in there. I've proved that time and time and time again. I've done tests on this to prove it. However, in certain months, that doesn't happen in New Zealand. There's certain months of the year, that doesn't make any effect at all, because we can do that at 9 o'clock during certain months, and our temperatures will remain static. However, if we do that at 11 p.m., it will plummet between our 9 p.m. reading and our 11 p.m. reading. However, that does not mean the temperature is plummeting from us being in there. It means the outside temperature is plummeting.
That's right.
When we actually go in and we take readings, we just don't take ambient readings. What I do is we have a laser gun, and I ensure that our team take readings of the inside walls, but they also take a reading of the outside wall. And it's now become very apparent to us that the outside wall is normally at least 2 to 3 degrees cooler than the inside walls. So if you've got a room that is in the middle of the house and there's no outside walls whatsoever, then that heat from the bodies being inside that room is going to heat up dramatically.
Because you're insulated.
Yeah, because you're completely insulated. But if you are in a room that has 2, 3 walls that are interior and one that is exterior, and it's summertime, you're going to find that's going to heat up. But if it's autumn or wintertime, you're going to feel that's going to really cool down from the first reading that you took an hour ago. And that's why baseline readings are important, that they are done frequently, and not only the ambient temperature, but the interior walls and the exterior walls by using a laser gun are actually measured as well.
Absolutely. And it's really important to make a note of these readings too, because if you think you're going to remember what the temperature
so not.
room was at 7 p.m. and you've taken 2 lots of readings and it's now 10 p.m. and we're 10 degrees. What were we before? Can anyone remember? No, write it down. Make a note of everything as you go.
You can write it down, or you can verbally say it on your voice recorder as well.
You can now. I used to do that, but it's you've got to then listen, like that's something else to be listening for when you're reviewing. And so personally, I've found it much easier just to write it down, because
Can I be really painful? I'm going to be really painful.
I'm sure you will be, Tracy. I'm certain you will be.
And I'm going to say that we've got specific forms.
I knew you would.
For EMF readings,
yeah,
temperature readings, both ambient and directional. And we actually have a comms unit, a communications unit, where one person sits, which is normally me, and everyone fires back all these reports to her, and she notes the time down and what the readings were and where they were and how many people were in the room at the time that the reading was taken. And we do that every 30 minutes.
And I'm sure that works for a large team. However, if you don't have a large team, if there's only 2 or 3 of you, just write it in a note.
Honey, we do that when there's only 4 of us on an investigation, because our whole team cannot get to the one investigation. Never can we all get to the one investigation. No. Unfortunately, I'd love us to, but we can't.
I'd just like
Speaking
to add,
of which, before we go any further, Tash, team, we need to go out and do an investigation.
I've just come back from Norfolk.
I know, but I mean team, as in us and our people. We need to go out and do an investigation. I
was just going to say, along with the noises, know your birds. And New Zealand native birds can be quite noisy, including poo geckos. Like the noises that our birds make sometimes are horrific.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example, not just birds, but my cat, the fat one I showed earlier, which people haven't seen, tends to attack frogs, and the frogs sound like it's someone being murdered outside my house.
Yeah.
Because why they survive, because I go outside, pick them up, and put them across the road. But yeah, if you're in a different country or New Zealand, know your birds, know your wildlife where you are. Otherwise, you think something weird is going on.
Have you ever heard hedgehogs mating?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
I was going to tell you something worse.
Yeah.
I was, believe it or not, I was living in the central London, and I mean a central London location called Thornton Heath, and I heard foxes for the first time in my life, and I rang the police and said there was a child being murdered on the railway tracks.
Wow.
Because that's what it sounded like to me. Yeah. And he goes, "Where are you?" And I told the guy exactly where I was. And he goes, "It's not a fox, love, is it?" And I went, "No, it's a child screaming for help." And he goes, "Are you sure?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "All right, we'll send a unit." believe it or not, a police unit came out and then came to me where I was living and said to me, it was a fox, honey.
Yeah.
Wow.
So definitely, Tash, know your wildlife about where you are. You know, I have heard people say to me, there's a bird talking to me out there. And I'm like, what's it saying? And they said, it's saying more pork.
Yeah.
I've got one of those.
And I'm like, yeah. And they're going, what is it? And I'm going, it's a more pork. And they're like, no way, a bird that can say its name. And I'm like, no, oh, Jesus, please give me
Yes.
strength.
Just go, yes. They're very
Yeah.
I
smart.
should have just said, oh, yeah. We have that in New Zealand.
And
But
I'm sure, there
you
are
were
stories
right.
about, paranormal investigations being held, and it turns out the source of this paranormal, I'm going to say it, Tracy, paranormal activity, is actually rodents. People
Yes.
just don't.
Yeah.
You need to understand that most paranormal anomalies actually do have a rational explanation, and look for it. Paranormal 101, look for that rational
Look,
explanation.
oh, totally
Don't just
agree with
listen
you.
and say there's something happening in the corner there. Have a look. See if you can work out what it actually is.
Tash, have you noticed that Barbara looks like she's wearing a tiara with the background on it?
So does Tash. So does Tash as well.
No, but you're sitting
can't
dead
see your
center.
I've got a black aura.
Yeah.
My cheese not black.
Sorry,
Now I
beg
have
your
a halo.
pardon.
Now I have a halo.
Okay, back to the subject. So we've gone through what you should do before you get there. We've gone through what you should do when you were there. What about when you're packing up? Can I
Well, we haven't done
please?
the investigation. We haven't done
Have
the
we
investigation.
not?
What are we
I
going
thought
to
we
do?
had.
Are we going to do EVP sessions? We're going to set up
Well, we've only got about
recorders?
10 minutes left.
That's okay. You need to set up some EVP sessions, okay? You get your recorders out, you turn them on, you make sure you say the date and where you are, because believe me, when you get home, there's so many recordings.
Wait a minute. You say the date, you say the time, you say
And
what
where you
room
are.
you're in, and you say
Yeah,
who's
okay.
with you.
And also where you are. Because otherwise you won't know. You can't remember which recording from each, unless you got a fancy recording.
I'm in the lounge at 9:52 with Barbara and Tash. And we're just
also
about to do an investigation. We're just about to do a recording. And then Tash is going to say to me, in the lounge, where? Where were we?
But also, what other equipment is in the room around you? Because
so
that's really important.
Or farts or, yep.
Yeah. If you hear it, like, oh my gosh, that's, sounds like there's some sort of sound anomaly there, then you can think, well, so-and-so had a recorder in that room. It was over the other side. And according to, what we've just said, we had 2 video recorders going at the time. You can line them all up and double check that particular anomaly. So it's really important to say what equipment is in the room with you.
Before we go that far, do you know what we've missed? It's really important that your video recorders, your cameras, your audio recorders, and your phones, if you're using them, are all matched up to the same time.
Absolutely.
Because when we come to talking about evidence and review, review and analysis and evidence presentation in a week of 3, this is going to be really, really important. I have had this time and time and time again with people taking video. Sorry?
Don't forget daylight savings.
Exactly. With people taking video, and the time of the video is not synced with the time on people's audio recorders, all their watches, all their phones. So when people are radioing you and said, I had this happen to me at 9:51, and you try and track back on the video recorders at 9:51, and they're not set to that person's phone, you don't find anything, and you go, no, there's nothing there, and everyone goes, oh, bummer. But the problem is it's not synced.
But you don't necessarily have to sync anything. You can go off your phone because that would be the most accurate time.
And just keep saying the time.
You can verbally say it so it's on the voice record and it's on the camera. And then you can use that as timestamps.
My point is the cameras have got to have the same timestamp. They've got to have the same time linked, because we've had cameras that have been 5 minutes out from people's phones, and they say, oh, look at 9:51. And we go on the cameras and look at 9:51 and we see nothing. And then we look for 5 minutes later and then we get what they're talking about.
That's another kettle of fish, having to review footage and stuff.
Time stamps.
As an extra
because
check,
we're short of time, I'd also
you keep
like to
saying
talk
the
about,
time.
for the investigation, you don't have to just do EVPs. You can do trigger objects. You can leave stuff in the room. You can put marbles, or if you suspect someone like to smoke, you put a packet of cigarettes or something there, and have your cameras on there and see if anything happens when you're not there.
Just make sure everything is synced. Your clocks are synced together. Like, I've had people that have had a watch, people who have had a phone, and they're 5 minutes out. And then you've got the video recorder that's recording 12 cameras, and that's another 8 minutes out. Sync everything up. That is so important with regards to reviewing, so that you can pinpoint the minute someone says, oh, on my phone it said 9:58. And someone goes, well, I've looked 9:58 on the cameras and there's nothing. But go another 5 minutes and, oh, look, I see what she's talking about. So sync everything up.
Even without syncing stuff, because I know my camera's not 100% always all the time, but I've managed to put verbal timestamps in there because I have to review my footage anyway. So I can timestamp it to my phone or my watch or whatever. And
the thing is that we've got with Quantum a whole bunch of people reviewing footage. So we're not just getting one viewpoint. We're getting 5 viewpoints on the same anomaly. So what we need to do
the time.
We need to have
the time. You don't have to sync anything because you have the timestamp on all of the equipment in that room.
No, that's the problem, Tash. We don't. We've had this problem before. Everyone's got a different time, so everyone's calling a different time. And the different times they're calling are completely different to what the camera's recording at that time.
But it's okay, because you're using your phone for the time. That you go by the phone time. And
but you do, but that doesn't, what I'm trying to say to you is it doesn't sync with the other equipment that's recording at that time. And when you're trying to review, that makes a huge problem. We have had this time and time and time again. When you've got 12 cameras going,
and with multiple equipment and other people's equipment as well, as long as you verbally say the time and you use a phone, because that's the most accurate thing.
That's if you've caught it on that phone. If you're trying to actually review it on another piece of equipment and that's got a particularly different time on it, then it doesn't match. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So Barbara's got a watch that says 10 o'clock, and someone set the video an hour out.
I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying that if you verbally say it, you have a timestamp on all the equipment of that time. So even if your phone or your camera or whatever was out, if everything else has got a timestamp from you verbally saying it is this time and it is this day, you should be able to match them up.
Be able to. You should be able to just,
Did that work at Lana, Barbara? Because no, it didn't. So someone's saying downstairs, I got a recording at 10 o'clock, and unfortunately the video cameras were set an hour out. So we're looking at the upstairs video cameras because we got something as a audio downstairs at 10 p.m. According to all of our watchers in the room, it was 10 p.m. But the video cameras were out by an hour upstairs. So we're looking at those video cameras for 10 p.m. and we get nothing. But if we go an hour out at 11 p.m., we get something that corroborates what we got on our watches at 10 p.m. That's what I'm trying to say. Things need to be synced in respect of timings.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah,
Tracy.
I
Because
understand
that
what you're saying.
happened at Larnac.
But if you're a good reviewer and you review all your footage, you'll know if someone verbally says on there it's 10 o'clock, blah, 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 it's on all the equipment. Yeah. If you're reviewing all the pieces of equipment, then you'll know at that verbal timestamp, regardless of what it says on the video or the recording. Okay,
I take the verbal timestamp. I take the verbal timestamp as being way more accurate than what any of the equipment says.
Well, oh my gosh. What I'm trying to say though is if you've got a piece of equipment where no one is there to give you a verbal timestamp, then how can you match it up with a verbal timestamp if the video is 1 hour out? Oh my God.
Look, you get your phone out. Well, you have to look at your phone at that point.
Because
and
you know
say,
how long you're recording for, Tracy. You know how long you've been recording for. So if you've been there for 5 hours, you know 10 o'clock will be X amount of...
I need another fucking wine.
Look, I think we're just going to have to... I don't even know if we disagree on it.
No. I've been through this shit. I've lived through this shit. I don't want to ever live through it again.
Investigation. I'm going to show you how to just verbally
No. You don't need to show me, Barb. I've lived through this multiple times with a DVR system with 12 cameras, and everyone's got a fucking different time. And every camera has got a different time. Not doing it again.
For the interest
Not
of time,
doing it again.
For the interest of time, because we only got about 6 minutes left. What else are we going to do on the investigation?
5, actually.
Okay. Moving on.
Moving along.
Fuck. End of.
See my halo.
Don't ever fully pack down. Don't ever fully pack down, because the minute you do, something's going to happen.
That's always what happens.
Very, very true. It's often when you're packing up that something will happen. And you can guarantee, I mean, you do eventually have to completely pack down. And as you put that last piece of equipment in your case,
that's when something's going to happen. Yeah.
There's a lady standing in the window staring at you.
What's that, Charles?
People whistling in the hallway.
Down, there's a lady in the window staring at you and like going, ah. Yeah, you didn't get me, and no one will believe you.
Absolutely.
What? No one there to right?
It's always a woman. It's never a man. It's always a woman. It's like
yeah.
Barbara said whistling in the hallway.
Yeah, I've literally had that as I put my last piece of equipment away, whistling, and it's like so cheeky. Like they know.
It is. It's like, yeah. Honestly, it is. I have had that whistling so many times when I've turned off the voice recorder.
Yeah.
All the cameras are being packed up. EVP's long gone, but everything's now getting packed up and the voice recorder's off. Can I say that the least thing, I actually think that you should walk out of the place with at least one audio recorder still going, because that's when you're going to capture something.
But then nothing would happen, you see. If you kept that audio recorder going, you wouldn't even get a personal experience.
Just keep it going, but don't say anything, because half the time I'm sure they listen to you. I swear to God, they listen.
Yeah.
Okay, time to pack down now, guys. We're out of here. We start packing up. boom. The minute we pack up our equipment, something goes down.
Often,
So
very often.
don't
They're
even say
going for
anything.
party, full-born ballroom party.
Actually, that is something just, I'll do this really, really quick. But as you're finishing off, it sometimes works if you say, we're finishing.
We're
You've
going
got
now.
30 seconds to do something because we're
Yep.
going. And count it down even the last 10 seconds. I've had that happen too. And suddenly, my EMF meter sparks off at the last second. It's like they listen to you sometimes. I'm sure they do.
I swear to God they do. I swear to God they do. And the minute you say, okay, we're out of here, you've got 3
Yep.
seconds to say something. Okay, we're going. Okay, we're
Yep.
going now. Okay, we're going now. And it's like they're saying, oh, for God's sake, just
get
go.
out. Like,
And the
just get
minute,
out.
yeah, exactly. And the minute
Yeah.
they see all your equipment's off, they go,
Ooh.
hello, is there anyone near?
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Maybe we're just not meant to know, right, guys? I don't know.
I do one.
I don't know about you guys. I don't know. We've got a couple of minutes left, so I don't know about that.
That's a huge that's almost a whole new series.
Should we do another episode on that? Are we meant to know?
Yeah, we could do an episode on trigger objects and things as well.
Oh, that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Actually, in light of what has just happened, majorly on YouTube with regards to trigger objects, with a very, very well-known content creating team who is renowned for not faking, I think talking about trigger objects would actually be very worthwhile.
Yeah,
because
just different things you can do and different because it's a huge topic.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah,
so much fun with it too. Trigger objects.
Oh God, yeah. You actually can. But not only trigger objects, error cues. Error cues are amazing. Get dressed up in the period costume of the time. Play the music of that particular time. Do things that they would have done. Use sayings that they would have said. So, actually, that's fantastic. Let's do another episode on trigger objects and error cues. Yeah.
Or just basically, ways to try and elicit some sort of reaction. Because don't forget, folks, if you're doing an investigation, we don't provoke. Okay, utter respect. Remember, they were once alive. They were once actual people. Well, most of them were once actual
30
people.
seconds to go.
30 seconds or less left.
Absolutely. Hurry up, Tash.
We'll have to say goodbye.
We have to say goodbye. Love you a long time, guys.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you next week. And what do we got next week? We've got a live next week, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got a guest speaker next week, haven't we?
Yes,
fantastic.
We do. Okay. We do. Come and see us, guys, next week, alive.
Right. See you then.
Bye.